there. Happy 4th of April. It's a special day today. There's planets that are aligned that haven't been for years, and people are going to get together and meditate at a certain time, everyone together, thinking thoughts, love, and healing for our earth, for each other. So we are going to read a book today called Moon Flute, and I love the moon. I love the moon. It's a kind of a gloomy day today, so it's a nice time to kind of snuggle up and listen to this story. I hope you enjoy it. Calvin and Rome and Neela and Kaya and Easton and Raylan and everyone listening today. I love you. Moon Flute, written by Audrey Wood and illustrated by Don Wood. Moon Flute by Audrey Wood, illustrated by Don Wood. I'll make sure that's in the picture. That full moon. Beautiful. This is for Edwina Cook Brewer, the oldest and the wisest. That would be my sister Elizabeth. On a night when the moon was full of itself, full of restless dreams and wide-awake thoughts, a girl by the name of Firin could not sleep. She could not sleep because the night was hot and shining with full moon magic. She could not sleep because the moon was pretending to be the sun, dressing up the world of night in the silvery day. Firin, 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 the bullfrogs and crickets and katydids seemed to say, "Come out, come out, come out, look around." The girl tossed this way and that on a rumpled bed. She looked up at the moon through her wide open window and said, "What have you done with my sleep, moon? Did you hide it under the jasmine bush? Did you send it to the creek to catch a fish?" But the moon did not answer. It sat in the sky, sparkling and milky white. Firin shook her finger at the moon and said, "I want my sleep back, moon. I will go out in the night and find it." Too softly, on tiptoe bare feet, the girl slipped out of her window and into the night. Honeysuckle vines smelling as sweet as syrup filled the air. A cool breeze found its way through the hot summer night, lifting Firin's hair and tickling her ears. Great-grandfather's trees twisted their branches against the moonlit sky. Garlands of moss hung from their limbs, looking like old men's beards swaying in the breeze. The moon lit up the dew-sprinkled grass like diamond dust. Everything was strange and eerie and different at night. An owl hooted from the nearby forest. Firin waited and listened. She could feel her heart beating like a bird caught in her chest, flapping its wings, trying to get out. She's nervous. Then she raised her arms to the sky, cupped her hands so that the moon seemed to rest between her palms. "Where is my sleep?" Firin whispered. "Give it back to me." And then the moon began its sorcery. First, it quivered like a ball of white jelly. Then it glowed with a startling brightness, growing larger and larger. And just when Firin thought it would certainly explode, a sliver of light jumped out of the moon's center and streaked towards the earth. "The moon has sprung a leak," Firin thought. "It's losing its whiteness." The girl watched the moonbeam falling from the sky towards her. Before she could blink, the light landed, flat and true and quivering in her outstretched hands. Firin slowly brought the moon treasure down to her eyes so that she might have a better look. It glowed like an ember, casting a brilliant light upon her face. Could this be my sleep, she wondered? Did the moon spit it back at me? Wow. The girl touched her fingers to the shiny moon ray. It was cool and about as thick as a good throwing stick. Unlike any light she had ever seen before, the moon ray was solid. When Firin turned the light stick over, she discovered a row of 7 evenly spaced holes. Without thinking, she brought the light up to her lips, placed her fingers on the holes, and blew. The moon flute was made of magic, a kind of special music. It was not the tweedledee-toot that was just any old wooden windpipe makes. This music trickled like water over rocks, clinked like crystal chimes in the wind, and jingled like brass bells on a sleigh. There were also sounds she had never heard before, the music of billowing clouds, the songs of migrating birds, the sighs of blooming flowers. And even better and more wonderful, good smells followed the moon flute's music. Sweet cinnamon cakes, crisp leaves burning in bonfires, apples baking, and crushed pine needles. The music filled Fion's heart with happiness that made her long to see the things she could only hear and smell. As the girl played the flute, she looked up at the face of the moon, and her fingers began to tingle. The tingling spread through her arms and rushed down to her toes, making her lighter than a feather. Slowly, she rose into the air, and then faster and faster until she was standing in the sky. Fionn looked at the world below her. Trees were now dark shapes, casting stringy shadows across the earth. Her own home, where her mother and father lay sleeping, became a dollhouse. The field and pastures, her own patchwork quilt. "Goodbye, Father and Mother," she called from the sky. "The moon is showing me a way to find my sleep." Fionn flew like a bird without wings. In a very short time, she could see the nearby town. Buildings large and small popped up out of the dimly lit streets. The town was crowded with shadows. Rectangular shadows sneaking out from under stores and houses. Triangular shadows falling on rooftops. Square, oblong shadows and zigzaggedy shadows making patterns wherever they pleased. As Fionn soared over the church, a flock of pigeons burst out of the steeple, crying in alarm and showering the sky with ruffled feathers. Fionn raced above the streets, swooshing past fire hydrants, street lamps, and park benches. I think somebody drew on this. 15. Fionn heard cats whining and hissing in the streets below, their shrieks filling the sleepy town with shivers and goosebumps. Flying over a picket fence and down an alley, she followed the cat noises. Fionn stopped above a black shadow where the cats were hiding and crossed her legs in the air. Did the moon toss my sleep to the cats, she wondered? Are the cats fighting over it, chasing it like a mouse? Fionn leaned down closer. She could see the cats now, but they were not fighting or chasing her sleep. They were sitting on their furry haunches, chewing catnip and looking at the full moon through diamond cat eyes. Fionn raised the pipe to her lips and blew through the sky, leaving the town far behind. It flew through the sky. She listened to the moon flute's music. It was sounding like waves and smelling of salt spray. There she's going to go. Yep. Now, when Fionn glanced below, she did not see mountains, valleys, fields, or plains. She saw an ocean that went on and on with no beginning or end. Fionn blinked her eyes in amazement. So much water. The bright and silent moon, high above the water, made a path of shining light over the choppy sea. Fionn dove down into the moonlit path and flew above it, snatching handfuls of sea foam from the tops of rolling waves. Suddenly the waves parted. Great whales raved their barnacled backs from the water, spraying fountains of pearly foam from their blowholes. Fionn shot up higher into the air, laughing and wet, sprinkled with sea spray. Did the moon toss my sleep to the whales, Fionn wondered? Are they teaching my sleep how to swim and dive to the bottom of the ocean? Look at the whale. Oh, so beautiful. There she is. Swooping low over the whales' gigantic heads, she watched them splashing and diving, playing hide and seek in the moonlight. The whales do not have my sleep, Fionn thought. The whales stopped frolicking and listened while Fionn played her moon flute, and when she finished her song, they sang their own song back. Musical gurglings and high-pitched whistles, squeaks and trillings filled the sea salt air. When the whales finished, Fionn curtsied in the sky, bowing her head in admiration. With a splash of foam, the great creatures dove for the bottom of the dark sea, leaving Fionn alone. "Where will I find my sleep?" she asked. "It was not in my room. It was not in the town. It was not in the hills and the valleys I left so far behind. And it is not here in the deep ocean. Where can it be? Once again, Fearon brought the moon flute to her lips and played as she flew into the sky. This time the music spoke of land and smelled of honey flowers and ripe mangoes hanging from trees, ready to be eaten. Fearon looked below into a dark, tangled jungle. Ooh. Drifting down to the nearest tree, she hovered above its branches. Why has the moon flute brought me here, she wondered. Fireflies flickered their lantern tails on and off. Great bats darted through leathery leaves. Tree frogs by the millions croaked and creaked. A noise sounded below the jungle's canopy. Circling above the trees, Fearon soon found a small opening in the dense jungle. She spiraled down, stopping above the misty ground, and looked around at the world beneath the treetops. Ghostly white and gnarled tree trunks crowded close together. Fat vines hung from their limbs, looping like giant snakes from tree to tree. Not a breath of wind stirred the air. The sound called out again, but this time it was very near. Fearon squinted her eyes, trying to see, but the jungle kept its secret. Rising up, the girl flew into a tangled vine and branches. Now she could see hundreds of monkeys. A city of monkeys. Oh, I guess I don't know what that would be. Did the moon toss my sleep to the monkeys, she wondered? Are they swinging through the branches with it, throwing it back and forth like a ball? But when Fearon flew among the trees, she found the monkeys did not have her sleep. They were chattering, pointing at the full moon that peeped brightly through the dark leaves above. In the fork of a large tree, a family of monkeys sat on a platform made of twigs and moss, scratching each other's backs and fanning themselves with banana leaves. When they saw Fearon standing in the air, they pursed their lips and shook their heads. I don't know what that sound would be. What's a monkey? No. Anyway, the baby monkey cried, clinging to its mother's back. The mother wrapped her arms around her baby, rocking gently back and forth, feeling warm and cozy. The little monkey snuggled close to her breast. The father monkey swung down on a vine and sat beside the mother, putting his arm around her waist. The two monkeys watched their baby blink its eyes, yawn, and then slowly fall asleep. Oh my gosh, those are all monkeys. Fearon thought about her father and mother. She remembered the story father had read that night, the kisses mother had given her, and the song they had all sung together. She thought about her home, in her room with her bed of rumpled covers. They all seemed so far away, so long ago. As Fearon remembered these good things, her fingers started to play the moon flute. She could hear the crickets and the bullfrogs and the katydids. She could smell the honeysuckle vines and moss-covered trees near her home. All the monkeys watched as Fearon rose above their leafy city and disappeared into the night. They listened until the music faded away. Soon, Fearon was not flying. She was speeding through the sky like a rocket, firecracker, whizzing over mountain ranges, bursting through clouds, sizzling over canyons, valleys, cities large and small. In the time it takes to snuff a candle, Fearon came speeding through the night to her very own town. A street cleaner looked up from his broom and thought he saw a star falling from the sky. He ran to the bell tower and rang the bells, waking the sleepy town and calling out, "Look, look, wake up! A star is falling from the sky!" But Fearon was already out of sight and slowing down, going down to the dew-sprinkled grass, down through her open window and onto her very own bed. She listened to the village bells ringing in the night and smiled. Fearon's father and mother, wakened by the bells, tiptoed into her room. They yawned, kissed her on the forehead, and straightened her covers. Fearon remembered the moon flute. She wanted to play it for her parents and surprise them. But when she brought it to her lips, it was gone. It was not in her hand, her covers, or clothes. Fearon wondered, did I drop the moon flute in the dew-sprinkled grass? The girl rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked at the moon shining through the window. "Good night, moon," she said. "You took away my sleep, but you gave me a magic way to get it back." Fearon snuggled down under the quilt, closed her eyes slowly, and thought, "Tomorrow I will look for the moon flute, and tomorrow I will find it." And then she fell asleep. That's sweet. Audrey and Don Wood. There they are. That's the woman who wrote it. That's the man who illustrated it. Very beautiful. Moon Flute. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. I did. And I will see you again, probably the next time that I read a book. Thanks for sharing this time with me. I love you. And keep your imagination going.